Rock and roll, everyone. I'll wait for a moment or so before a couple of you get here, and then I will begin. It's a fabulous evening here in Saskatchewan. We're still just sitting here waiting. Things are developing, and with this Ascension caravan, things will progress very quickly. We just needed to set something up. There we go. Kathleen Nugent, Hale, Jade, Nicole, Trisha, Irina. Woo, good to see you, girl. And good night. um, okay, first thing, again, I will reiterate that I am a powerful creator. I am what you may wish to refer to as Jesus. I am the Son of God, and I incarnated in this physical vessel when it was born, so I've been here all of this time. However, my abilities when it was time was not fully awakened, and I was not fully given who I was until that time, approximately around 2010 or what have you. And so since that time, I have been creating, and I am a leader, a teacher, one that assists always, and I am many things, as many of you may know. So that's who I am, and let me say, yes, I'm Jesus. However, I am Rick, and and so that was then, and this is now, and it's different now, as many of you know. And again, I've openly proclaimed this several times in the past. So, I have a disguise, if you will, and that's very important, and each one of you do as well. And it puts us in the areas where we needed to go to make these great shifts and this huge planetary ascension. And so this is what I am, and nothing restricts and I speak freely. And I encourage, again, all of you to speak freely when you know who you are and your reason for being here. And let me say, we've been here before, many of you, and we're let's also say that we don't need to go back there and retrace those steps. We're here to create the new, and we're here to co-create it. So if you look at the past, though, just as a reference, there was more or less, just one powerful creator at that time, Jesus. However, now there are many here with the Jesus abilities, and those are all of you. And over the course, when I was fully awakened back to who I am, I've been on a journey gathering many of you and speaking with many of you and assisting you and nurturing you to get you up to speed for this time. So we are back here again for a reason, if you will, as most of you can attest, and you know that. But let's say, there is a very important mission and reason why we are back here. And we don't really need to get into those aspects because, again, that is in the past and it's different now. And our mission is to remain focused on forward with this ascension and assisting humanity. So, and I did break down some point forms there. To try to keep it in more of a chronological order. So, there are many of you that have the Christ abilities as well, and we know this. So, we're all here together to unite, to strengthen in the physical forms, and to transition and, let's say, evolve humanity. at any given time, we can leave these vessels as you know it, but this is a transitional process, and this is what we are given with it, that it is a transitional process. It takes linear time to do it, and we're here to fulfill those missions, purposes, and reasons. And everyone watching, that we are here for the purposes and reasons. So with this ascension, nothing is written in stone how many will come into this Christ ability. What is written in stone is that enough, whatever it takes to do it, to transition humanity. So there's not a definite number with this. And also, having said that, there will be some that you may know on these timelines that may not know the truth in this human experience, in their soul's experience. They are heaven here, that they may not know what is actually occurring. But anyone watching this, more or less, you are playing a part in all of this in unity to fulfill our purpose and our mission here. And having said this just earlier today, let's say I didn't really like to hear that because I wanted to get this over with and leave. However, Father, more or less say we could be here on this linear timeline, most of you, for another year or two to fulfill what we must do here. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that everyone is. I'm not giving that, but I'm saying for the most part, our mission may be to, as we're evolving and transitioning very rapidly, we may be required to stay here to keep a sort of balance with, if you will, and oversee how things go, so it's a much smoother transition with it. Our missions and jobs here, divine jobs, if you will, it's just something that we can't just really pick up and go from, that we have to nurture it along. So just saying that. Now, I need to reiterate this. Although there's many truths here upon the surface and many beliefs, let's say yet not all of the truths are here. And this is why I constantly preach, if you will, not to draw conclusions and know that truth is not constant. Because as you come up into higher consciousness, you will begin to perspect and see from the higher consciousness of creation. And at the creation levels, everything is energy, and it does not work the way that a human logic or rationale would think it works. So the moment that during your development and your evolution that you derive a preconceived notion or come to a conclusion, that is the moment that you begin to restrict and cut off further expansion of your consciousness. So this is why it's so important to remain as neutral as you can. And also with this ascension, this is why it's so important that all of the teachers and everyone virtually or essentially states the importance of non-judgment. And that is so important as well, because it can restrict you with some of your abilities. So it's always best to remain neutral. Now, there's always exceptions to the rules, and if in a circumstance, let's say that someone has already judged themselves publicly by their actions or what have you, then you're not passing a judgment. You're merely stating a fact, a judgment that they have made upon themselves. But again, we don't need to go there. As you know, with the light, one of the basics you're taught is that the light does not attack. And So you're allowed to defend yourself, but also you don't need to defend yourself. And some of you that maybe know what just occurred several months ago with that I didn't defend myself because I did no wrong, because we don't. These are all lessons, and there are many things that are divinely orchestrated to assure that ones are pushed down to the lowest to get that inner work done, because they can't rise up and be co-creators if they're able to be manipulated by things such as fear. Fear is lower density, it's lower dimensional aspects that are not part of what you are and part of your ability to create. We are here to create the new, absent of all of this fear and darkness. And so to do that, the creators need to be almost fully alleviated of any fear acts and reactions, and they need to come from a place of non-judgment and neutrality, but not a foolish, let's say, not a foolish ignorant place either. There is great discernment and discipline with all of your gifts, and there is a divine responsibility with it. However, saying that, it's not a stringent thing. However, you must always practice discipline with your gifts and your abilities and hone your skills. It's very important to keep working upon them, upon your divine gifts as you receive them, as they become apparent to you. The more you work on them, the stronger they become, the more you integrate them into your um, physical vessel and energetic field, and the more accessible they are to you in utilizing in your divine tasks and in this co-creation. So again, these are, very important things that I preach over and over. Many of you know it. However, I still bring it up because what we have, almost on a daily basis, we have other ones that are rising to that level, that they're open to hear that they need to hear that. So that stabilizes them and gives them another step, another platform that they can work upon themselves and keep advancing as well. We're not to take all of their hands, we're to show them the way, and we do not impose ourselves upon others. The most efficient way is you be your beacon of light, and for the most part, if you're to assist one, they do come to you. And now, however, saying that, on this Ascension caravan, this is slightly different. I in this team is going to many others, but what is occurring, we are associating uh, firstly with more powerful ones that are uh, beginning and already have, their higher creational abilities that is allowed in these lower dimensions. So, and hi everyone just joining. So, having said that, nothing is written in stone with this ascension, and things can change in the blink of an eye. And it's because everything is frequency and vibration. Let's say once everyone has gone through old uh, programs and have did their inner work in regards to that, then they're ready to move to another level. So very quickly things can change. You got one level done, and okay, your soul says, well, that's it, that's got to go. Then all of a sudden, boom, you find yourself up in a new area, and perhaps learning new things and different perspectives and rationalizing to the uh, degree that each one has pertaining to their level of consciousness, and doing your best at integrating more of the knowledge into the consciousness, and transitioning and even transforming, if you will, or metamorphing your physical vessel and your energetic field. So it is quite a lengthy and complex process, but there is, again, reasons for it. And again, as I said, I am a leader, but it's here to also empower everyone back to their point of origin from Creator, empower them to the fullest. That's what this is about. So we all stand side by side going forward and create and reflect a greater, swifter change. Now, with that, you may say, there's a rush. Well, yeah, it sort of is a sort of rush, and that we do need to get this done. You know, one thing, there are many other things that many don't know, but one thing that most of you do know is that you're tired. You've been doing this great, extensive divine work for a long while, and for the most part, we wish to get this done and move on to the least, to the other higher uh, experiences. But there is a uniqueness to it all. And, you know, some stay here, some go to different timelines. It's the options are just a wide variable of what can obtain to give you that truth, and most of you already know that. You've been given confirmations of other dimensions, other timelines, other realities. So that is your confirmation and your inkling that there is something else going on in the least, and that you are able to access it. But it keeps getting better and it keeps getting stronger as we go through. So, uh, so, you know, expectations of what Christ should be like and perhaps even look like, these sort of things must go. Again, we're not in the past. We are in this now and going forward with a much higher train of thought, if you will, from 2,000 years ago. Uh, the consciousness of the human species or the human experience has increased. It's much different than it was then. You may wish to reflect back and look at some of the valuable parts of that as you regain your memory of all time. However, it's best not to have any expectations upon what Christ should be like. And I say this because it was hilarious. So in 2010 or 11, whenever it was, uh, you know, when I was awakened back up to who I was, I said, okay, yeah, now I'm Jesus. What do you want me to do, Father? You know, get a white robe and sandals and go around? And no, he smiled and said that just be yourself, Rick. So, having said that, I am, you know, I smoke cigarettes and do all these human things, but it's so important that we be our genuine selves as well. And you know, this is why we have come also with these demeanors, especially with the divine feminine that I work with so many. Your demeanor is just optimal. It's so pleasurable, and it's so uh, powerful, and it's, you know, and it's just, I always have great satisfaction and appreciation when I run into the divine feminine that, you know, have integrated most of their power ready for this time. um, Having said this, the divine masculine as well, that is a great pleasure when it's divinely orchestrated in time, that I do come run into some of these as well. And it's just very gratifying to know who's out there, who's part of the team, you know, who's working where and where they're at with their levels of integrating their co-creator gifts. So it's very beautiful with that. And you know, we're on linear time, so there are times that we must take rests and wait for certain things to happen and to evolve, because events set up through through energy, they are creations. Even events are creations, and sometimes we must wait for our cues before going forward. And a great example of that is right now when I'm still here in Saskatchewan. I wasn't given the full reasons why we were just held back here divinely, if you will. But as of today, and last night, and speaking with Father and going directly back in with counsel and getting some answers, it became very apparent that yes, we had to wait here for several good reasons. Now, having said that, I am a powerful creator. However, because we are all connected to a collective consciousness, there are things that are blocked from this consciousness that I am speaking with now. And that is also for good reason. And one good reason is because of all the truth was known within your consciousness right now. It changes everything you do. So there is a divine discipline with the plan to assure that you are not um, doing things that are, let's say, too much out of whack. For example, that you're not creating the miracles, levitating all of you, attracting attention, because there is a complete respect for the other soul's experiences here that may be having a heightened human experience that are not to know the truth as well. So there is that divine discipline that is here. Now, I can assure you, every one of you can do this, but again, it's governed by the overall divine plan. But sometimes you are allowed to do things or see things, that are very magical. But it's kept, for the most part, so far, kind of small, and there's not many witnesses. But for each one of you, you do know that it's true and that these are your confirmations. So, you are manifesting and co-creating, and again, this confirms the heavenly powers, that are given to you, but are rightfully yours. You're given the opportunity during this ascension to regain some of those powers in the lower dimensions and to utilize them for the good of all and for assisting with this divine ascension. So, again, there is a reason why all of this is occurring and why you're getting these powers and how you can perspect it perhaps in a couple different ways. From a more logical, lower consciousness human perspective, you could say that the human species is evolving, consciously and within. However, we know the higher truths of what is exactly occurring, which is something a little bit different. However, it's whatever gets us there and gets you to the highest places possible, with the least amount of work and the most efficiency. Um, yeah, so some of these points are already covered. One thing I need to reiterate, I would not even be here on the surface if it wasn't required, and that's the same for each of you. So again, at times of doubt or whatever, as you keep working upon lifting the veil, remember that you are indeed here for a reason, and you're getting prepped for bigger things yet to come. And you would not be here, and none of this would not be happening if it wasn't also required to happen. And having said that, many of you know that they're in the lower densities as well. There was darkness, and many of you and some of you that I know have spoken with, you have, let's say, participated in heavy burdens from the darkness where you were considered targets. And I can also attest that I, as well, needed that experience before I awakened as well, to understand more of the darkness, the antics, and the tactics, and how they work. So we always take value from it. We're We are always more powerful than the darkness. As I said, they are quarantined to the lower densities, the lower dimensions. We are all inclusive. They have no power over us, and the one of the tricks to that is just getting the brain trained to use your mental divine capacities at much higher rates, and then you actually confirm this for yourself. I can tell you this, but as always, it is always strongly suggested to do your own things and get your own confirmations. I just share what is possible for you and give you a guideline, a tentative guideline, because things are subject to change with the divine plan. What is actually occurring and what is happening, and what to also be prepared for in some near term things to assist in alleviating any fear aspects and maintain your high vibration in conjunction with all of the rest. So again, we are all one big team, and we are unity, and with that comes immense co-creational strength. And when we combine all of our forces and change the realities. But again, what is actually occurring, it's very complex, and I try to keep it as simple at times as I may and as we may. However, there are times when ones are ready for more of the higher truth, that it does come out. And it gets integrated throughout the collective consciousness, who needs to see it, and those that don't need to see it and are not really a part of it, they don't fully see it, or if they see it, their veil is set up that the divine mechanism is that they will reject it, and it's that way to assure that their soul's experience in the human form remains intact. So there are certain souls we cannot interfere with along this journey, and I know that many of you have witnessed that, and have seen how ones, when you tried to assist perhaps from a higher perspective, just rejected what you were saying. And very simply, that's because, there needs to be that respect for those souls that are not supposed to know these things. And it's divinely assured through at least the veil that remains intact, and that their human experience is ascertained, that it's not interfered with by the higher co-creators that are going ahead and creating the change that these other souls that don't have the veil lifted, they are oblivious to, but they transition into as well. So again, I'm getting into some of the higher truths and with this. And okay, where am I at now? And as you see from time to time, and what I did the other day, the observation of the beliefs is so important. So if you take upon the surface, if you look at the most prominent beliefs, or perhaps maybe dozen of them, I haven't counted them. But what occurs is that with this ascension, that ones are coming from all beliefs, and there are also some that had to venture into with their divine training to learn of many of the beliefs. So having said that, the beliefs, it becomes much more important when you know that you manifest and you create from what you believe as well. And during this time of transition and this ascension, there comes times when the planetary beliefs, that you may need to leave most of that go if that's not meant to go forward into the new that we're creating. One thing at least that is always ascertained is you and your connection to God, to Prime Creator, that all of you accept. and that is the one true belief with that, to keep empowering yourself, keep integrating the knowledge, keep remembering, keep raising the veil up with that. But please understand, it's also why it's so important not to come to a conclusion which stops a belief, and it can be restrictive. So again, in your co-creational abilities, beliefs are very important, not to be totally committed nor obligated or restricted by certain beliefs. The more open you can keep your consciousness during this transition, the much more rapidly you rise up into your true divinity. And you need that most powerful pivot point, which is, let's say, the Godhead. It's perfectly okay if that's within you, or if it's just one point high up. At least it's a point to go towards that has the least amount of distractions, and it's the shortest path to your highest prowess in these times, to what is allowed. Okay, what else we got here? So I show you areas as an overseer of this ascension that no longer serve. And this is why these 3D, 4D aspects will come up, that I will, let's say, dive in and open up that can of worms. Because again, it needs to be shown as well things that will no longer serve where we're going, and they need to be rationalized. But also, if they activate others when I do that, what occurs is that then the others are able to see by their actions and reactions that perhaps there was something hidden still within their energetic fields, and parts of their consciousness that they need to work upon to free themselves from these lower dimensional acts and reactions, and to integrate more of their power. For every little bit of inner work that you do, that you eradicate the darkness or the negative aspects, if you will, it's replaced by positive and by your higher divine powers. And this is why it's so important. You can compare what is going on with this ascension with your individual developments much to a video game. The higher levels, the more you succeed in empowering yourself, the higher levels you attain in the game. So you may even wish sometimes to look at it as a game, because in the full reality, when we're back where we're at, you can say, yeah, that was quite a game, and that you won. But we already won. We're just, we already did this. We're just going through the motions and integrating it into the timelines for the others, and for part of the human experiences that others will enjoy as well. So what we're doing is we're preparing the new stages for the human existences that will follow, and your lower generationals, like the crystal children, rainbow, indigo children. They have taken up human form here, and there's some very powerful, amazing souls among those generations and communities, if you will, that carry the, let's say, the advanced aspect further with humanity. So it gets very fun for their generations as well. Well, it can be very fun now. However, we still have this sort of mission to do, to carry things through with it. Just having said that, I put a post on earlier, previous this, or two posts previous, about the Guantanamo Bay, and about the tribunals, the military tribunals. And again, with that, this was what was called conspiracy stuff, but as we know, it's very real. But one of those links in there, I believe, is from a government representative from California, which more or less put this out, that it will be broadcast to the American public, the result of these tribunals and judicial hearings, that will be taking place. So it is going to be a very fun to watch, quite a show. When the truth is revealed to the rest of the public, and this will create major shifts upwards, as you know, once more of the truth is revealed to them. Now, this is a process, and this is also why I say we may need to be here for another year or two. Some of us, um, some of the main ones, the powerful ones that know what's going on, and to assure and to transition future events and future realities with this, to nurture it and tweak it going forward. So very good. Uh, yeah. So again, we need to create the new absent of the lower dimensions and the lower densities. Again, what we're creating is our timelines, and some of these timelines are the harmonious piece for that experience, that human experience where there is none of the savagery, and it's advanced civilization into love and peace and harmony, mutual respect, virtue, all of the good things. So you are the creators of those realities as well. And again, to be a creator of those good realities, you need to be purified to the extent of the lower densities while you're still in a human form. Hence, all of the trials and tribulations and the training that occurred with you here. You were being prepared, you were divinely being trained, but it was from your soul's level that you requested uh, to go into certain experiences, even bad and dark, to get the full understanding on them so that you could assist others that were beginning to rise out of it. So you went into the depths of darkness, a few of you, to get the complete dynamics of what was going on, and to come out of there well informed and know how it works. But by knowing how it works, then you knew what remedy would work on it so that you could pass the remedy on to others very rapidly to assist them forward. So it's always a divine process. It's totally beautiful, the full dynamics of it, and it is all energy, and it's all creation as well. And okay, yeah, I wrote this one down. Should I say that, Father? Yeah, he's laughing. Father says to say this. That thing about some's perception. They say a lion does not need to roar. Well, my answer to that is that yes, uh, during the course of trying to get the message across several uh, dimensional gaps of consciousness, sometimes the lion has to roar, and so which is comical to get the message across, and to I at least, and um, so yeah, I roar, but each one needs to roar as well. You need to own your divine identity here, and step into your prowess. So I'm here to say that there's nothing wrong with roaring as well, just when it's needed. We don't want to overdo it. um, yeah, again, so we're doing this. Many souls and these linear lifetimes may not know whatever occurred. However, we are doing it. We're sent here to do a mission, a divine task, and we do it to the best of our abilities. And everyone, you always do your best. You don't make any mistakes. There are no mistakes with this. You just keep your mindset and your focus on going forward, and that is what is divinely assured to occur. So you don't carry a backload of worry and these sort of things. You trust what you're given, your gifts, your divine intuition, and also your messages you receive, and you go forward with that. And if you need to know something, it will come, and you will receive it. So you're on a need to know basis, and I pretty much am the same way. We're on a need to know basis here, because if we knew the futures, then it changes what we do in this now. And there is great discipline and a sort of an order with what we do daily. But I'm here to share with you that again, you make no mistakes, and you just play the role that you're given. But you play the role from your gifts, what your heart says, your consciousness. Play that role. Follow your intuition, follow your guidance. That is your script, not chatter or some outside influence. Follow what resonates, what is real, and what is your guidance. And again, each one judges their own vibration by their actions, what they do. So each one judges themselves. And I love to say this, just generically to all audiences again, that you can say, yes, you're in judgment days because you're judging yourselves by your acts and your actions, that you always wish to come from the heart. When you come from the heart in any of your actions and reactions, there is never any wrong with that. Even though it may look on the outside that it was something that wasn't quite right, well, you had to see that as well, that it could be something you need to work on within, or you needed to put it out there to assist others. And one of the old adages that the truth hurts, that can hold true in these sort of circumstances. But understand that you are a divine being here assisting others. And like Cameron would say, it's not all fuzzy bunny stuff. There are times when you need to practice a sort of sternness, and in good ways, of course, and a wise compassion. It's great, and it's so powerful to have the great love to project out there. However, be wise in the compassion, because you don't wish to be energizing something of the negative or the darkness as either. You wish to be most efficient and beneficial with what all of your divine comrades are doing, because you're all co-creating together, and you don't want to energize obstacles that could create hindrances for you or for others. So just you could say in a lower 4D way, just be mindful of what you do. It's um, just um, act in a patiently manner where you don't more so rush into things unless you're divinely told to do so, and that you know that you must do something immediately. So again, with anything I say, and as all of you know, there are exceptions to the rules, but there are also a general guideline, general rules to follow that assist you. But please understand, once again, as we know, that there are always exceptions to the rules for what we're doing thus far, and there may be what seems like contradictions. But again, the trick to overcome them and master them and understand them for what they are is to be fully open with yourself, what is going on, and so forth. So again, you have some biblical references, but it is different now, and it is. So you have some clues. It's okay to observe those clues for whatever value. But it's good not to linger on too many of the older beliefs, because you're creating the new again, and things are different now. So, to the best of your ability, and it's also why a lot of your memory, a lot of you will find a lot of your memory of your human existence here is being erased. And there's nothing wrong with you. That's because it's being replaced by the higher perspective, and you're also bringing back your memories. So that is perfectly okay as well. And it is a commonality to see that in many, where you may not even at sometimes remember fully what you did 5 minutes ago. But it's also linked to your multi-dimensional abilities, that if you make a quick jump from one timeline to another, then also, I don't wish for this to sound complicated, but on different timelines, there are different histories. So there needs to be adjustment to the memory if that occurs and you're oblivious to it, that you just made a major shift to another timeline. So everything is in perfect order with it. It's what occurs is that the human logic and belief and the lower consciousness thinking will confuse and distort things. So again, this is why it's so beneficial. Just go to that state of neutrality and an open mind, and then things come to you so much quicker, and you expand your consciousness to the most efficient ability and capability that is allowed in conjunction with the overall Christ collective that you are part of. I see many questions perhaps there, and just to let you know, I'm not looking at them. I'm focused on a lot of points right now. We'll look at the time when I'm done, and I may look at some of those. So if anyone has any, questions, perhaps we could just leave that towards the end, and I'd be able to facilitate at least some of those. Thank you. Um, I create and tweak world events. And yes, I'm a powerful creator. And since 2010, I've been doing that and setting things up. And also, as part of this, what we do, if there's some nuances or some nuisances with some lower density pests, some darkness, I will set traps for them, if you will. And that's to get them to come to the surface, to reveal themselves, also for others, for training purposes. And because sometimes it's not just enough to say there's darkness out there, it's always more beneficial to say, oh, there's darkness right there, look. And seeing is believing for them as well. So I tweak certain things up with world events. Yes, I do. And any that may have known me for quite a while, some friends or whatever, you could relate to things that I said would occur before they ever did, and prophetic things, and then you would see, yes, they did. And the reason is because I created certain events to that extent and for divine purposes to again facilitate this ascension. And what I just said is not boasting, and it's not ego. It's being authentic and genuine and owning fully what I am, which each one of you I strongly encourage and suggest to do. You should not be restricted by any words in the human vocabulary that suggest complete modesty, or one things I like to say, do not let words like humility or ego, bad ego, restrict you. Rise above it, because you are no longer human, and you're not bound by the old human ways and words. They are restrictive words, but that is for each to work on to their own accord. Um, yeah, so we're here to do a mission together. We know that. Uh, Real compassion comes in truth. And what I mean by that is that, it's great to have apathy and perhaps sympathy and compassion to extensive degrees sometimes. But um, with that, because it is unconditional love and caring, which are important virtues. However, sometimes there becomes a limit to that in the ways to recognize that you are not serving someone else's pity, where they want to be sympathized and these sort of things. So uh, there is a truth to it as well. So it's important to note that, and you get into the psychological aspects with that. When some are uh, doing a lot of their inner work, they'll bring up a lot of drama or what have you. The thing is, don't get caught up into it. Just try to give them a higher perspective to get them out of it so they don't stay in those cycles, is what I suggest. Um, So what I put here, there are times with I that Father has been stern. It's because of what's at stake here at a much higher level that not really all are also given the information on what that is. However, in the least, many of you do know that the stories about the dark angels and how that can be, but not even the dark angels. Look at your cabal and these sort of things that we're cleaning up. So, what you call the elitists and the cabal, uh, you can, let's say, the swamp as well, what Trump calls it, needs to be drained of these dark influences because they are restrictions to creating the new realities. So it's being assured also divinely that these obstacles, if you will, are being taken out of place. And again, that's part of the reason why we're here. It is a mission, and also it's a co-creation as well. Um, and also, some of you have been very quickly and abruptly brought up to speed. Perhaps just awakening, the term awakening or labeling just a year ago, and very quickly and rapidly your consciousness and was brought up to speed and a lot of your memory restored. That also indicates and suggests, the importance of you also being here at this time and contributing as a co-creator uh, with everyone else to ascertain the ascension overall. So for some of you, you were awakened very abruptly, and but also, it was time. It was ascertained and divinely orchestrated. So there are a couple different perspectives that you could look at to understand more of what occurred with it. What do I have here? So there still is some minor resistances, minions, if you will, because and why those still occurs because they're lower dimensional beings with the veil intact as well, and they're unable to access the truth because they must remain behind on these lower timelines. But where you're fluctuating, you may come into contact with these. So just letting you know again what occurs with that. That there are little darknesses, but the major ones were taken out when we came here. We came here in 2010, but 2012, the main dark culprits were taken out of here, and what remains are the minions and a lot of lower darknesses, a lot for divine purposes for any of you to learn more about them. So again, they cannot harm you in any way, but it's there to empower you to know that. And, you know, you're able to learn and see what their, you know, their antics, the old antics were and how they operated. So you become more informed on that, and again, more equipped to pass on or pervade the divine knowledge for others to quickly overcome those and rise up. The galactics, as you call them, are here, as well as many dimensional beings, and that's pretty well self-explanatory and is a given, and most of you accept that and know it as a truth, and I'm just reiterating, yes, because of what's occurring. There is also you could look at it off-world help here as well, so it's not only the etheric realms to the degree of the heavenly realms, there are also other interdimensional beings that are here to assist with this, and this is where your ships come in, and also knowing and learning more about the ships and yourselves as part of this. So, yeah, we may be here for a year or two linear time yet to complete mission. There was only about 1,500 to 2,000 incarnates here that had advanced the physical and energetic vessel to the degrees where they were creating, where they are creating very handsomely. And that's a relatively low figure, but it's more and more every day are progressing to these levels. So, you know, with those numbers, they look relatively low, but you have very powerful creators. And let me say that even though the numbers may look low, it's a misconception or an underestimate of the prowess of these individuals, what are here, your divine comrades. So there's about 1,500, I'm not to 2,000, I'm not given or have not been given yet the exact number on that. However, there will be more of these, and for you that are watching as well, will anyone watching this more or less is going back to your full divine sovereignty, and you know that's why you have an interest in why you are watching this. So I'm going to stop talking for a bit, have a look at some questions. Yeah, I got through all my points, thank you. It only took about an hour linear time. Okay, where am I at? It's only 169 comments, but I'll go to the latest. Nija, there's no one to judge you. You judge yourself. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. And Kathy Kaufman, she says, my mission is Earth Mother. And yeah, you know, many of you have been also assigned a different, even though there's an overall mission, some of you have become specific to specific points of the mission, and it's all inclusive again. So, Janice Fowler says, I smoke too. Will I be able to ascend? Yes, you will. Yeah, I don't wish to get into that lengthy explanation of why, but I just answer that quickly, yeah. Don Mill says, tell us about the Buddha. Was he a myth? Let me say, it doesn't matter if the Buddha's a myth or not. Let's look at the great value from those teachings. And that's, again, what you take, whether something is a myth or not. If it contains value, that's what it's there for. So it doesn't matter And you know, this is same as if they say the Christ may not, Jesus may not have existed. It doesn't matter. There's great value in seeds that were planted there. So you don't really need to judge. You don't really need to know if it's myth or not. If it has interest to you and you uh, can draw value from that, that's what it's for, to keep it easy. Thank you. Dawn Ivy says, many say they want to go to their home planets. I feel I am home here doing what I'm called to do. Yeah, you know, everyone is unique to the levels where they're going. And that's why I said, you know, I can't say you are staying here. You are going to 6D. No, it's written in your soul contract. It's just that we're all together at these times to fulfill a mission and a purpose there. Some may be staying, some are going. It's that really doesn't matter. What matters is what we do in this now and in the unity, and follow each one's inner guidance and part of this. So great. Um, so Ken Best says if they're not, oh, I lost that one, I guess. If they're not happy with your points of view, just okay, here it is here. If they're not happy with your points of view, Janice, then don't worry about it. Let it go. Yeah, exactly. There will be those that shall listen. Yeah, I totally agree, Ken. Again, you know, there should be with each one of you, you have no offense. You just allow and let be. And there is no issue with you. And if someone doesn't agree with anything, you don't have an issue with it. That's great, you know. Uh, but more or less in the human way, you're entitled to your opinion, of course. And it's not to say that others are right or others are wrong. Everything justice in that respect. So, um, you know, for the most part, in a daily thing. But when you get into teaching and doing other things, there are different things that do change with that to be of the greatest benefit of all. But yeah, if anyone has an issue with you, well, then that is their issue. It's not yours. And it identifies within them some sort of fear or some insecurity that they have that they must work on. Because when they are not fully acceptable of another's and appreciative of their beliefs and even their opinions, you know, it shows that they're trying to control someone, which is actually a fear based energy again that they have within them to know that no, they must accept everyone. The highest is to accept everyone as they are and just observe neutrally with that. So, Me, tell us about pyramids. Well, you know, pyramids are very real. They're very powerful. They're from different times and timelines, and as you're discovering, as more of the truth is revealed for the higher dimensional timelines, you know, more are finding that everything they were taught on them, or a lot of it, is changing as well, except when you get into the higher dimension, higher consciousness communities, then most of the truth was there beforehand as well because they knew it. And then science is just catching up to that, but it's also creating the new timelines. So again, it's a process. And yeah, the pyramids are beautiful. And yeah, many secrets, not many, but a few secrets are yet to come out as well. So it's great. Yeah. Juliano Romero, could I please ask you what will happen to you if you die addicted to drugs? I'm new. I'm sorry. Thank you. First thing, Juliana, no one never needs to apologize to I, because everyone does act from their heart. And when you do that, there's not a need for any apology. Um, what I will say again, you say, could I please ask you what will happen to you if you die addicted to drugs? Um, One thing I will say, to give the highest truth, that there is no death, Juliana. And if you're supposed to die addicted to drugs, well, that is in your soul contract. So everything just, for the most part, with that is what it is. That was, for example, if you died of drugs, then your soul contract was up for that humanoid experience. Is one way that you may wish to look at it and consider it. Um, but what I will say with this ascension, for this ascension community, in the most part, that being more conscientious of your health is essential for these physical vessels to do that. And many can attest to that, and many are finding that. And it's also divinely taken care of on deeper levels for some, where they're unable to eat favorite foods that they used to eat, as an example. That's because it's divinely ascertained that the physical vessel evolves to where it needs to evolve at any certain point in linear time. So everything is ascertained from a higher level, and then you just got to go through the motions and apply it to the physical vessel. Uh, Michelle says, what percent of the population is human? I have been surrounded by so many reptilian hybrids and clones. Michelle, what I can say is that there is, yeah, other, I'll say, life forms here. It's besides a human that takes on the human form. To ask for that percentage, I was given it a rough percentage several months back, but I just don't recall. But I do know at that time that I had put it out. I believe that might have been put out in an update which come from Divinity, just for informational purposes. So I just don't recall what that was. Um, However, I'm kind of feeling that the population, around 2/3. Yeah, Father, what I'm getting from Father, it's around 2/3 human. So the rest is what have you. There is AI, there are robots, cyborgs, whatever you wish to call it. There are also, um, let's say, the clones. Yes, there were also those as well. They were genetic makeups, but they cannot advance and cannot ascend, and they really don't have the soul. They have a written program that is put in there. So again, if you come up to a clone, you only waste your time trying to assist them, is what you'll find as well. And you may also make them a little bit. Sometimes you'll see that their eyes will blink rapidly, and they'll repeat the same script over. So it depends on what your energy is like. If you're very if you advance to a very powerful level of energy, and if you get around one of these mechanical clones to a degree, you will make them do wonky things, and it can be hilarious. I will say that. Now, having said this, I would love to see some examples, perhaps put in the comments or PM'd to me in the near future so I can share it with others. And, also to accreditate that it is so. So it's great always to have the concrete validations, the documentations of it in this reality. And again, seeing, for the most part, seeing is believing for ones that are just beginning to awaken or ones that are getting ready to awaken. So, let's see, gee, I'm going to go way down here, you guys. Anna Garcia, yeah, smoking is not good for your health. Anna, I agree with that. I agree with that without getting too extensive on that. If someone feels that smoking is not good for their health and that they shouldn't smoke, that is for them. But let me say that also, I really don't wish to be smoking. However, it's something else going on with the reasons why I do, which will make for a great show or discussion in the future on that subject when more are ready for it. Thank you. Joy Bostic, she says, are there any foods in particular that you recommend cutting out? Yes, all processed foods and foods with preservatives in. The most quickest and purest way is to go to a raw plant diet. That is the most beneficial, and it ascertains a quick transition. Any acids, heavy acids, soda pop, these things are full of chemicals. And so, yeah, cut soda pop out. Even if you're at a level where alcohol doesn't resonate, it's a very good idea to cut that out as well. Do not be drinking city water. Assure that you have good spring water, but don't be tricked by certain brands of spring water. Rely on your intuition to choose the one that is most authentic and most pure. Belinda Bickford says, does Buddha belly ever go away? Yes, you're able to transition and transcend different timelines. And a very quick story with that. When I was awakened, I was with this physical vessel. I had to do lots of change. It was very unhealthy. And one of the parts with that is that I was obese at that point and had a lot of weight on. And I weighed roughly 280 or maybe 300 pounds at that time. And my abdomen was quite large, but I had awakened and was beginning to do all the good physical work on the physical vessel. And I awoken one morning where I had a large abdomen. I would always swing my leg to the side of the bed, with such a force that it would lift me right up quick. But this one morning I went and I used the same amount of force, but I went right up, right light, and flew into my closet, and I had to put my hand out, and I said, what happened? I said, I'm right light. And I looked at my belly, and there had been just, let's say 20 or 30 pounds just gone right off it instantly. But that experience I needed to have to share with others, but also to see the possibilities of entering the other timelines where you reverse the aging process and you cure everything in your bodies and so much more. So there are times that I'm given the actual experience sometimes ahead of time so that I can share it with others, because then I also create it to occur. So yeah, so it goes away if and when it needs to, is my answer. You're welcome, Juliana. Um, what's this? Don Bowers, Cantor. Beliefs define. Thoughts are all ego. Unconditional, simple, and highest self is not complex. It guides in everything going on. Flow is so much easier than analyzing the journey. Allowing it works wonderful. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that fully, Dawn. You know, when I was awakened, and to know that I was here to assist with the ascension and teach. One of the things that I would try, one of the things when I began attempting to get this physical body and putting it on paper, one of the things Father would say, he'd say, Rick, keep it simple for now and not get into the dynamics. And so I can attest to, yeah, what you're saying. And in the beginning, you know, trying to explain the secrets of the universe, if you will, and the mysteries of life, I wanted to be very particular and get right in and explain everything right to the detail. But Father said, no. He said, you don't need to do that. You need to keep it simple at this time. So yeah, I agree. It's so easy, just go with the flow. Exactly. Um, Kathy Kaufman, she says apple cider vinegar is so good for you. Kathy, I wish to say that in the past, and perhaps even now, it is good for some during the transition. But what many will find that as your body transitions higher, that you need to be careful with these acetic acids. Apple cider vinegar contains 5% of acetic acid, and that is very high. But where that complicates things, it complicates things at the DNA level with your ribonucleic acids, your RNA, which is part of your DNA. And during the DNA being restranded, acids are, some of the amino acids are being thrown aside, and others are, let's say, being modified. But what occurs is you don't want extra acids in during these DNA change periods. So you need to be careful with that. It is important to keep the human vessel, keep the overall acidic level, the pH level, um, into the alkaline with it. Yes, and part of that process means eliminating um, certain other acids, also the citric acids, and they do put citric acids in a lot of preservatives. So one may wish to be more conscientious of what they're putting in their vessels with that. So, you know, this holds true for some, and it may be perfectly okay for you with the apple cider vinegar, but I'm just saying that it is also possible in the future that you may transition. And, you know, during this ascension, people's diets change frequently and very often with this. Um, and you will find that later, perhaps in your physical body development. But it does occur and it is common, yes. And there is a reason for it. Mary Lou says, I understand that the Galactics basically just drink smoothies. They don't eat solid food. Is that what you feel? let's say there's just so many variations of it, but uh, one thing I will give you is that really some of the interdimensional galactics don't require food at all. When you have your energy in your energetic fields to such a quotient, you generate energy from other means that you don't need to use primitive ways of digesting food to give energy to the body. So, and this also is kind of connected to the apple cider because the digestive acids in the physical vessel are also changing, and in some are preparing that you no longer need acids in there when you have attained the ability with the physical vessel to just extract energy from the air that you really do not need to eat for some. So again, this is the breatharian um, aspect, but it's very real, it's very achievable, and it is part of some's futures for sure. Sulfur, MSN, sulfur, Shannon James, and phosphorus. Yeah, those things become no-no. They're very toxic. The sulfur, the aluminum, and the phosphorus in preparing the physical vessel uh, with this ascension to walk with this physical vessel into other dimensions as well, and to be able to retain a high enough frequency to be able to do that with the human form. So I suggest, I didn't read your other things, but I suggest be very careful with sulfur, phosphorus, the phosphates, and aluminum as well. Distilled water. With your distilled water, it's don't be on it for prolonged periods is what I suggest. Couple weeks at a time, then get your spring water back in. But again, follow what resonates with you in that respect. Hold on for 1 minute. I got to shut my power off. The battery's charged there. Yeah. So yeah, follow what resonates, but it is a good idea um, to just don't be on distilled water for prolonged periods. You may need to do it for a prolonged period if you're detoxing the body and bringing it out of such a lower state. Then perhaps one may be guided to be on it for a month or two, however long that process may take. But what I'm saying is, it's best perhaps not to make a habit of that. But again, go with what you are given is so important. I'm just saying that there are other options out there and that there are other variations that are unique to the individual. And yeah, good idea to keep it out of the plastics, the PCPs, the carbon, the petro and carbon products. Yeah, because they go into the water, and also the things in the metal. You're absolutely correct. With a lot of cans, they have a lining inside of the cans that does um, over time release chemicals into that food before it's eaten. And with that, I suggest to limit what you may be eating out of cans as well. The most beneficial diet is to have all of the fresh vegetables raw to eat. That is about the best. Raw celery is very important, very beneficial to have. So I'll look at a few more questions and I'll probably put this off. There's so many here. Linda Hickton, she says, Rick, how do I change my polarity so I can shut off any chemicals allergy? Well, it's a process. Work on it mentally first to begin to open the doors for the other ways, uh, the other information to come to you. So mentally do it. State out loud that this is what you wish, this is your intent, and that you're open to receive the ways. And then you'll begin to start to get information on how to do that that will pertain directly for you. So to get started on that, change the mentality. You may even wish to mentally change the polarity of your vessel. If you feel that it's negative charge, well, change it to positive, and whatever else may come with that. Thank you. Hey, Rick Wolf, hi brother, says, can you speak on your position of Trump, President Trump? Yes, I can, and I openly speak. Um, Trump is assigned, let's say, a specific task during this ascension to assure that certain politics and things are revealed to allow humanity to transition into higher states of being. And also, like JFK, as you'll see, Trump has followed the similar path of that. However, what I will say with Trump is that there is a bad ego aspect that does appear sometimes, but it can be there for beneficial purposes. So the best with, Trump, you may look short term at, you might like to see things change with the ego, but it's also best to understand that don't judge something from one dot. Perhaps wait till you have more dots and then you're able to see more of the picture with that. But what I can attest to is that, I'd like to see President Trump not to be exhibiting so much of what you could call a negative ego, but I also am given on the other side that it is also important his demeanor and how he's acting, because he is relating to many levels of consciousness from not awakened to awakened. Uh, so having said that, he is speaking to many. So I guess for the most part, it's, even though there are things that we see that may not resonate fully, it's best for us not to judge it and watch the show and let it play out would be the best to say on that. So that's where I'd like to leave it with that. I could say more, as you know, but no, it's playing out the way it must. So it's best for us to, as co-creators, to energize the good things that we know that humanity needs, like the gold back currencies, the RVs, the QFS, getting the criminals out of the way, revealing all these elitist criminals to everyone else, because it's all the good parts of the process that needs to be done. So it's good that we focus on the higher things, but I openly share is that, yeah, I'd like to see sometimes what I would not like to see is any degrading things that Trump may even make against his adversaries. It's okay um, to state the fact of what they are, but when you begin to stoop to make fun of them, I don't believe he needs to go that far, because then you begin to venture into a negative aspect that um, some of the other public might get dragged into that's not awakened. The perfect idea is to have no bad ego whatsoever, but we're all in as well a transitional period here, so we should not be judging on those aspects, and just allowing and energizing the best we wish to see. Hola, Marcia. So it's getting quite late, and I've been speaking quite a bit. Oh my Lord, new comments, 116. It's Speak the violet flame, Don says. You control energies you bubble yourself with. It is your protection against negatives of any kind you may come into contact with. Yeah, the violet flame and all of the other sacred flames are very beneficial energies that you work with and that you can work with to serve different divine tasks as well. And there comes a point where many others work with these powerful energies and invoke them in tasks that are for the good of all and not for themselves as well. So, and that's where a lot of you are, hold it, most, yeah, where most of you are going with that, the ability to use energies in divine ways and become more familiar with their intents, their purposes, and the applications thereof. So you'll become more familiar with the specific energies and recognizing the colors of them. Um, because for the most part, with the humanoid eyes, you'll be able to see the different colors of energy and be able to identify what is being administered or applied to a certain situation at any given time. So, rainbow meditation, Kathy says. Yeah, the rainbows are becoming more prominent, and gee, I love that. They are so beautiful, and they are also, as we know, indicative of divine energies as well. So, beautiful. Well, having said that, everyone, I feel it's time to call it a show. So, I love you all, and winks, and peace, and kisses, and yeah, let's see what this video does with reality. So, quite a quite a reiteration, but again, some more explanation on what's going on and what is happening. And perhaps I didn't get too much in what is happening, but just we can sum that up in one line, that all of the corruption and suppression upon the planet, upon humanity, even in the forms of tyranny, if you will, from the elite, is being cleaned up. The light is behind that, pushing everything to the surface. Anyone watching this that thinks the world is a bad, corrupt place, I need to let you know that the light is behind that, pushing it all to the surface. There is a mass cleansing and purging going on of humanity. The darkness is being filtered out. You are on your way um, to eliminating wealth disparity. Everyone will be equal in wealth. Sickness will be wiped out, poverty. You are in a huge transition. However, all of the darkness needed to be cleaned up to allow the world to transition into the most better, harmonious place and peaceful place that you wished for it to be. We have thwarted between the galactics and uh, divinity several attempts by the lesser darkness to create nuclear war and what have you. We have taken out of fruition, particularly two missiles that were launched from the Bering Sea um, towards Hawaii about a year ago. Also in the Gulf, our presence has been magical things so that the darkness understands that they must comply with what we say. You cannot be killed. Stand up where you are needed to divinely stand up, unless you're, uh, doing some other sort of a divine task. And we just keep going forward. It's happening. Huge cleanup, and in very short term, this world that in the past that is going to change into something much more beautiful for the benefit of all. So we are in times of a very great transition where I love to use that humanity is going out of savagery and becoming, I'm not even certain if I would like to use the word civilized, but let's say a more harmonious state um, in the lease. So that's what's happening, and many are part of it, coming into to their divine gifts and learning how to use them and co-create together as a huge divine network in a huge unity. Again, the more that each one's come together, the stronger you are and the greater good effects you have on reality. So, blah. Thank you and have a great night. Love you all. Bye.